And when I saw he did a video on me, I was kind of excited. But then I actually watched the video and, oh dear God.
Yeah, I can relate.
Honestly, that was my reaction to this video in a nutshell.
What? No, I'm not gonna change this. My reaction to this video was more like, pass me another shot of fucking vodka, I'm gonna need it to get through this.
Just a robot. Quite possibly one of the worst YouTubers I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, I get it. Instead of calling me a YouTuber, you call me a Jewtuber. Clever. Except for you need to explain how I'm a Jewtuber.
No, you don't. The joke clearly just whooshed over your tiny little nubless robot wee-wee. The main reason got called a YouTube goy is because you pick basic run-of-the-mill topic and give the opinion that'll appeal to the lowest common denominator. This can be applied to both your political and non-political videos, you beast.
Can you just wait 1 second so Jar can define what a YouTuber is? Thanks. Also, Josh's idea of what a YouTuber is has no relevance to Jar's idea.
And Jar's idea has no relevance to anything. The only person's idea of what a YouTuber is who matters is Darkseid. Why? Because he's the one who fucking used the word. If we allow Jar to interpret it as he feels, what's stopping him from giving some weird obscure-ass definition that makes Darkseid's video make no sense? Now, he didn't do this, although my point is, unless Darkseid's definition is some obscure-ass definition that nobody has used in forever, it's completely contradictory to the common definition, or there's a better word he could have used, there's no reason to bring in another idea of what a YouTuber is.
Not to mention the fact that this guy's audio quality is god-awful. Seriously, why couldn't Darkseid explain this himself? Did he really need this pointless cameo?
Yeah, Darkseid, how fucking dare you want to include friends in this project? You should have just told them to fuck off and die in a crack house. In all seriousness, however, why is this cameo pointless? If you mean because the audio quality is shit, that's fucking dumb. Just because the audio quality is bad doesn't mean the cameo is inherently pointless, because the way I see it, the cameo brought something new to the table, ergo it had a point. I mean, I get it if he just repeated Darkseid's point, or brought nothing new to the table, although he really didn't, though.
That insult is usually reserved for people like the Fine Bros when they try to trademark the word react, or other YouTubers who try to scam people. I'm sure Darkseid's argument is going to be, it's just a joke, you're taking it too seriously. Well, the joke doesn't make any sense and it's not funny, so it fails either way.
I like how you dedicated a whole 40 seconds to one single word I used, then claim I don't give a reason as to why I called you that, but yet the entire video is explaining why I called you that?
Except for the fact that the word YouTuber is used for YouTubers who are greedy. Mostly because it's a common stereotype that Jewish people are, well, greedy. Yet, you never made an argument as to why Jar's greedy, unless he's greedy for views, which is something that you never said or made clear. So, this point is crap either way.
Hey, what was that thing Immature God said, like, just a few seconds ago?
The main reason got called a YouTube goy is because you pick basic run-of-the-mill topic and give the opinion that'll appeal to the lowest common denominator.
So he picks basic run-of-the-mill topics and gives an opinion that'll appeal to the lowest common denominator. Could that not be seen as him being greedy for views? I don't know, it seems like you're ignoring the part Immature God said, cause my narrative.
The fact that he constantly talks about dead topics that nobody gives a shit about, like the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base.
Well, I talked about the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base one time, and that's it.
Please keep this point in mind, because it's going to be very useful later on.
I also want my audience to remember this. Notice how Darkseid said that Jar constantly talks about the FNAF fanbase. Yet the word constantly would mean that he has done it several times, which, like Jar said, he hasn't. He only did it once. Also, I'm skipping a point that I don't disagree with.
Hold it right there, Spider-Man for PS4. Darkseid said Jar always talks about dead topics that nobody gives a shit about, not the FNAF base. He used the FNAF fan base as an example of a dead topic Jar has talked about. Keep in mind what I just said here. It's going to fucking decapitate a point Dwebley makes later.
Wow, you don't like the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base? Why don't you make a video about the ICP fan base while you're at it?
Well, I care more about FNAF than those guys. And this is something Darkseid is going to do throughout the video. He's going to constantly say, oh my god, you don't like this thing that other people don't like? Wow, so original. But the thing is, you can do that with pretty much any channel. I can even do that with yours, Darkseid. Wow, you don't like incels? So original! You are the first one to ever cover incels on YouTube. Congratulations!
This is where context is key. Besides you actually admitting to liking the series, or at the very least one of the videos in the series, it's not a generalization of incels. Think of it as an index of incels per video. Your videos are the complete opposite of this, so no, we can't compare them in that case.
To further elaborate, the series isn't meant to say, wow, I don't like incels. It's to document what incels do that people might not have seen, such as the r/incels Reddit that was shut down and was no longer available, but I still had screenshots available to me of that subreddit. And also in the second part, it wasn't really even about incels as a whole, it was about one particular case, Alec Manassian, and that was because a lot of fans wanted me to talk about it after seeing my first video.
Jar still isn't wrong about your negativity towards incels, though. I don't even have to watch your video to know that you don't like incels. Your hatred for incels is written in your description. Just because your entire point was to say, oh, I don't like incels, that doesn't mean that Jar's point is any less valid.
You can't be fucking real. You cannot be real. Jar's point was that Darkseid is just as unoriginal as him, considering he talked about incels when, surprise surprise, other people have talked about incels. Jar's point has absolutely nothing to do with Darkseid hating incels.
Of course, as everyone knows, Jar was a member of a community called the Alt-CC, which I helped found. Our mission was to destroy what we called the Neo-CC, a new age of commentators that can't take a fucking joke and spurg out over the smallest things. I could talk about how we wanted all of the edgelords out of the Alt-CC.
Well, you could do that. You would be a liar if you did that, because I did not want all the edgelords out of the Alt-CC. I didn't want anyone to be kicked out, except for maybe Chambers of my heart, and that's about it, but she's really not an edgelord in any way whatsoever. This is another thing Darkseid is going to be doing throughout this video. He lies about me a lot. He doesn't have any evidence for these claims, but I also don't have evidence because I don't use Skype anymore. But me saying, let's get rid of all the edgelords, doesn't sound like something I would do.
The Glengar guy comes back to explain a point that I do not disagree with, so I'll be skipping over that portion.
And the reason I mentioned it was because I saw the message in the group chat where you said something to that effect, and everyone in the alt was telling me that's what you were saying as well. That's why I just said it in passing. Unfortunately, you're not the only one that doesn't use Skype anymore because it's shit, so I understand that. I tried to find it, but unfortunately, I could not. So in the words of Fred Durst...
Oh my god, why? If I have learned anything from my god-awful something I want to address video, it's that if someone's making a claim without evidence, then this person shouldn't be making that claim in the first place. Maybe Jar said that all edgy members of the Alt-CC should be exiled. Maybe he did and you're just a lying scumbag. Either way, your audience is forced to take what you said seriously, but they shouldn't even believe you when you don't have any evidence. I am forced to take your word at face value, yet I don't believe a word you say because you don't even have screenshots.
Hey, guess who acknowledges this? Darkseid! He said in his video that he couldn't get evidence and explained why, and then said his point was just he said she said bullshit. Now, while you aren't wrong per se, but my question is, what exactly did you add? You basically said the same thing Darkseid said in his video, the fact that he has no proof. Congrats, you added nothing. And before you say, pointing out your problems doesn't make them go away, you never said this in the original video, so get fucked by a black person. A very gay black person.
However, I know that someone stupid will say, oh, but Lucas, when somebody fails to provide evidence, it becomes your job to provide that evidence.
When your target fails to provide evidence, it's up to you to provide that evidence instead of just saying, lol, you're wrong, herpty-derp.
Yes, because someone like me, who doesn't even have Skype, is supposed to access the Alt-CC server, which is most likely deleted now because the Alt-CC disbanded, just to find this obscure comment.
Hey, is that Zerarick? Huh, I wonder which video that is. I mean, hopefully Dwebley linked it in the description. Oh. Dwebley, you had one job, and you killed my semi. Good job. Like, seriously, you go on this long-ass tirade about show proof, and then you don't provide any proof yourself. Fucking hell, dude. Yeah, but we got more to address, so buckle up. From what I could gather, it seems like Zerarick's point is saying that you shouldn't say a video is automatically wrong for having no proof, and should provide evidence that they are incorrect. We can assume this when he says, instead of just saying you're wrong, herp-de-derp. While Zerarick, your point could have been worded better. Dwebley, you missed the point of his clip just to strawman him. Because, while yes, a lack of proof for a claim is certainly an issue, it doesn't automatically debunk a point.
Get this retarded mentality that you have to provide proof whenever your target doesn't just die already? I'm not the one who made the claim. Why the heck should I provide the proof for it?
Literally, how often is this used? One video. From a fucking year ago. Dwebley, if this is your only and most recent example of this argument being used, then you are making a mountain out of a molehill.
Back to the point at hand though, your credibility is absolutely horrid, so you shouldn't even have made the point in the first place.
Okay, Dwebley, there's multiple reasons why I hate this point. A. Hi, I'm new boy number 69420. I've never heard of Darkseid. What brought you to that conclusion that he has a horrid credibility? B. Hi, I'm someone who may watch your video who is a fan/friend of Darkseid. Can you explain to me why he has a horrid credibility? Because as someone who is a fan/friend of him, I don't believe he has horrid credibility, and your lack of proof really gives me no reason to believe you. C. What happened to show proof, eh buddy?
Completely defeating the purpose of the Alt-CC in the first place. But of course, he just wanted to cater to his audience and not use too many mean and evil ad hominems.
Again, no. You guys kept on saying, doodle diapers, doodle diapers, doodle diapers. And I was telling you guys to come up with something new. Don't turn this around on me and say, oh, Jar doesn't like it when people insult other people. No, I don't like it when people use the same boring insult over and over and over again. Of course, Darkseid doesn't have proof for this, but I also don't have proof for this either. But does this really sound like something I would do?
There's a portion right here that's okay, so I'm gonna be skipping over it.
That was what made the doodle diapers thing so funny. It was overused, and we knew it was overused, but it still pissed him off anyway. That was the point.
It doesn't matter if you know that the nickname was overused or not. It's still an unoriginal and repetitive insult that has been rehashed for over 2 years now. Oh my god, you're proving him right. Which is the last thing you want to do in a response video because the main point of them is to prove your target wrong.
Oh my god, you missed his fucking point. Darkseid admits it was repetitive, but that's the point. And Darkseid said himself that the repetitiveness was what made the joke funny, because it still pissed people off, despite it being unoriginal and repetitive. Now go jerk off to your anime body pillow, you fucking goddamn incel.
To add on to that point, wow, it's almost like being repetitive is repetitive! Oh my god, what an amazing discovery.
My legs are dangling off the edge. The bottom of the bottle is my only friend.
Yeah, people really don't like it when stuff is too repetitive, myself included.
I think I'll slip my wrist again and I'm gone.
If you've never actually had sex, clap your hands.
He makes terrible opening skits that seem like freshmen in high school drama class with dementia. Hey guys, I'm just a robot. And as you can clearly tell, I am a robot. And I'm Junkie. I'm not a robot. I'm an animal. And Jar here thought it'd be an interesting idea to do a video on robot animals. Junkie, you're not supposed to introduce yourself like that. Of course. No, you can't be serious, Darkseid. Oh my god. This is actually a joke about long skits. Let's keep playing and see what I say after he cuts me off. Junkie, you're not supposed to introduce yourself like that. You're supposed to do an unfunny skit about you breaking into my house, and then through a series of very awkward dialogue, we agree to do a video on something together. Or we can not do something that makes your average, low-budget middle school play look like a Broadway production of Hamlet. Whoa, that's a fascinating concept. Let's do that instead.
Even though you're making fun of dumb skits, the skit itself was boring. You could have done a much better job at taking the piss out of them. I didn't mean to take it out of context or cut you off before the punchline of the joke happened. I was just using that as an example as to why your skits, well, are very unfunny. Self-awareness doesn't make them any funnier, at least in my opinion.
Just because it wasn't your intent to take him out of context, that doesn't change the fact that you still took him out of context. And due to lack of context, it seems like you missed the point of the joke. With that comes yet another issue. Why the heck didn't you take the entire joke into account? When you don't do this, it's cherry picking. When somebody is criticizing humor, he or she should actually take the entire joke into account, not just a part of it, or a joke will not make sense if the context is taken out. And I know that you're probably going to make an excuse to justify this, but I honestly don't care, because you still took this crap out of context to fit your own narrative, and you were dishonest towards your viewers. End of story.
Okay, Dwebley, hear me out. Does he need more context? Like, sure, the skit wasn't done, and sure, it was a joke. But his point was that the skit was unfunny. Even if it was on purpose, that doesn't somehow make it funny. Considering Jar is doing nothing new with it and just, hee-ho, boring intro skit, lol. So, no, it's not dishonest at all. And Darkseid had enough context for his point. If you put the context back in, nothing's changed about Darkseid's point except the skit was boring on purpose, which doesn't suddenly excuse it from being boring.
If you've never actually had sex, clap your hands.
Wow, Steve Shives and social justice warriors are bad?
Yeah, and it's not like you ever said the same thing. Oh wait, you did.
Yeah, one time.
Well, I talked about the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base one time, and that's it.
Oops, guess if I make a point about a subject you covered one time as an example, it's invalid. But you can totally do it, because double standards isn't in Jar's vocabulary.
Remember when I said that the word constantly will bite Darkseid in the ass? Well, this is the part where it bites him in the ass. Darkseid, you have to remember the context of Jar's interjection. You misused the word constantly by saying that Jar constantly talks about the FNAF fan base, and Jar makes an interjection that could imply that he's calling you out for misconstruing said word.
You know what would be really funny? If Dwebley's own footage debunked him, but that can't happen. Not even he's that stupid.
The fact that he constantly talks about dead topics that nobody gives a shit about, it's about dead topics, dead topics.
Wow, I am genuinely baffled by your stupidity. In your own fucking clip, Darkseid says that Jar constantly talks about dead topics, not the FNAF fanbase. It was an example of a dead topic Jar talks about. You know how he says this?
The fact that he constantly talks about dead topics that nobody gives a shit about, like the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base, like the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base, like the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base, like the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base.
Now shut up, because you clearly don't know what you're talking.
Before I start the commentary proper, I want to make a disclaimer, given some of the reactions to my previous commentary. Regardless of what I think of the people I commentate on, regardless of the motivation behind the commentary, and regardless of what I say about the people I commentate on, the purpose of my commentaries are, and have always been, for the purpose of criticism and entertainment. How harsh you think I come off as, or how comically driven the commentary is, should not distract from actual arguments or legitimate criticisms directed towards you. Furthermore, criticism given in a severe manner can still be constructive. It just means the criticism won't be sugarcoated. If I ultimately come off as harsh, it won't be for the sake of being harsh. It'll just happen that it came off that way. Are we good? Well, I hope so, because I'm starting the commentary anyways.
It's ironic that TP is the one to point this out. But
More on that later. Besides that, do you not see how being overly harsh and aggressive can cause your criticisms to be muddied? Like, yeah, sure, you can have points while being aggressive and harsh. However, if you become overly aggressive, it can not only cause you to over-exaggerate issues in a video, but the more harsh you are, the less likely it is that your target will actually listen and take the criticism. Yeah, it can still be constructive, but you gotta make sure the harsh criticism is done properly. God damn it, I'm foreshadowing!
Pokemon. The series where you capture and train these awesome creatures to become the very best like no one ever was. But for a series geared towards children, there is some weird, dark, and creepy stuff in this series that makes me question just how kid-friendly it really is. And that's what I'm counting down. These are my top 5 dark and creepy things in Pokemon.
You say that these things make the series not child-friendly, but there are plenty of things that I've done and had worse that are still considered child-friendly. What, is it something special that needs note because it's fucking Pokemon? What, do you need a fucking parade for this stunning revelation that a company isn't treating its target audience like lobotomized slowpokes?
This is gonna be a good game.
I'm gonna argue this point more when it comes up later, but why place this point here? These are his opening statements. Wouldn't it make more sense to wait until he explains why he believes these moments aren't child-friendly and make this point there? Maybe I'm nitpicking, but you'd know about that, right, Zerarick? God damn it, I'm foreshadowing again!
The first generation.
He says while showing footage from the Gen 3 remakes.
Why does this matter? It's not like the fact that he's using visual clips from the Gen 3 remakes hurts his points in any way. Maybe he just wanted to show the Gen 3 remakes because that game looked better. Videos are an auditory and visual medium after all, so if he wanted to use better looking footage, he's free to. I would leave my point there, however, Gale actually elaborated on this better in a try-up with Doodle Tones and TP, so I want to play her clip.
My emoting of that line left a lot to be desired, I'll admit, but the thing is that there's plenty of difference between the two, and it's not just appearances. It was impossible for Charmander to learn Metaclaw in Gen 1, for example. Just seeing the footage can make people think about those differences. Not to mention, showing actual Gen 1 footage meant that he could have shown some subtle differences between Red and Blue and Yellow. Yellow was never adapted to Gen 3. Not to mention that Gen 1 has so many glitches that were cleaned up later. Missing number! Glitch City!
And to that I say, my point still stands. Yeah, there are differences, but they don't harm his point in any way. And even when there is a difference between the original and the remake that affect his points, he shows a screenshot of the original to demonstrate his points. So this is ultimately a needless nitpick.
It's what introduced the world to Pokemon with its 150 monsters, memorable music, and some interesting locations, with one of the most standout locations being the one and only Lavender Town. The story of this town goes like this. Team Rocket invaded Lavender Town, kidnapped Mr. Fuji, and killed the resident Cubone's mother. Wait. They killed the Cubone's mother. In a kid's game. Rated E for everyone? More like rated E for explicitness.
Yeah, off-screen death. Explicit. Look, I know it was a joke, but what I'm trying to say is, your joke is shit.
I know it clearly was a joke that was meant to be hyperbolized, but fuck it, I'm just gonna argue it like it's not. Well, in the meantime, only giving you the vague critique of your joke was shit.
Oh no, it's like death is a real-life concept or something.
This point is strange. Yeah, death is a real-life concept, however, that doesn't mean it can't be explicit. I mean, running illegal booze and blasting off heads with Tommy guns is a real-life concept, but I doubt you're gonna sit there and tell me that the Mafia series is child-friendly.
Besides, they never show how the Marowak died or describe how the event occurred. They just said that Team Rocket was responsible for killing Cubone's mother. It's sad and admittedly dark, but that doesn't mean it's not kid-friendly.
This point rubs me the wrong way. Let me explain. What is and isn't kid-friendly is subjective. Like, really subjective. And depends a lot on the time. For instance, there was a time where a man and a woman walking into the same room was considered too graphic for all audiences. Meanwhile, in the modern day, we have kids shows and series that would be seen as more mature back in the day, like how Steven Universe deals with death and genocide. Not to mention, are you forgetting the controversy where Pokemon was considered satanic and the whole game was considered inappropriate for kids? The point I'm making is that what is and isn't child-friendly is very subjective, and you just saying, nah, this is child-friendly, is using your opinion to counter Chaos Key's opinion. Honestly, if you wanted some sort of objective basis, you could have checked the ESRB. They have a page that says that a game can be rated E or E10+ if there is mild fantasy violence, and I think the death of Cubone's mother happening off screen could fall under fantasy violence, and still make the game E or E10+ at the worst. It is still subjective and relative to the time, however, citing the ESRB would give you more of a basis than your own feelings.
How is that shit explicit when that Marowak's death happened off screen? You want an example of an actual on-screen death that messed with kids' heads, yet it happened in an E-rated game? Here. Moral of the story, kids, dark stuff can happen in an E-rated game. Hell, it's not just games. There are plenty of G-rated movies where main characters that aren't villains die on screen.
Mufasa! No!
That, for example.
I get where you're coming from, Gale, I really do, but this point kind of falls flat when you realize Pokemon is rated E. So yeah, Chaoski knows that deaths can happen in a game meant for kids, but he's arguing that, in this case, it's explicit. Ignoring that this was originally meant as a hyperbolic joke, how do you know Chaoski wouldn't also take issues with the examples you brought up? This point is horribly subjective from the word go.
This town is also home to the Pokemon Tower, which is basically a giant Pokemon graveyard. The tower is haunted by ghosts, it's full of Chandlers who are possessed by ghosts, and before you can reach the top floor, you encounter the restless ghost of Cubone's mother, a Marowak. Only by defeating it can you calm this weary spirit. The music, at least in the original games, was a very unsettling tune.
Yeah, the only reason that music was unsettling in the original games was because it was 8-bit. If you listen to the song in the Gen 3 games, it's actually quite calming and nice to listen to, at least in my opinion. Even when I played the original games as a kid, I never found Lavender Town's theme to be creepy or unsettling, just grating on the ears.
First, doesn't matter why it's unsettling, it's still unsettling, at least the Chaoski. Second, this mention of the Gen 3 Lavender Town shot your earlier point about his footage in the foot, because when the original was more relevant in the case of the music, he used music from the original. Third, are you really trying to counter Chaos's opinion with your own? Well, if that's all it takes, then I can just say I do find it unsettling and call it a day, except I can't because that's dumb and it doesn't work.
And the ghost sprite from the original is kinda creepy with that disturbing derpy face. Ugh.
Derpy equals scary. Duly noted, DDD is now the scariest Kirby boss.
That's the joke.
I really wouldn't say this is the creepiest thing I've ever seen.
Wait, the number 5 entry on a list of creepy things from Pokemon isn't the creepiest thing from Pokemon? Well, color me surprised.
So disturbing
and blue.
Because of the weird creepypastas that have come from it. Seriously, just look up Buried Alive and Lavender Town Syndrome, and you'll know exactly what I mean. It's some very messed up crap, let me tell ya.
If what makes Lavender Town seem so creepy nowadays are the creepypastas, then why not have those appear on the list instead? I mean, you did say anything during your rules, and there's still dark and creepy things relating to Pokemon. Or, at least I assume they are, since you're telling us to look this shit up when you, as the presenter, should be starting that job.
Creepypastas are inherently non-canonical, and if we look at his rules...
These dark and creepy things can range from anything in the series. A moment, an area in the games, specific Pokemon, eerie sounds and music, an NPC, a setting, a backstory, whatever. Just anything that manages to make me feel uneasy or creeped out as all heck.
He said anything creepy in the series, and creepypastas are not inherently part of the series. Also, why does he need to demonstrate this if it's just a side aspect of his overall point? It's a throwaway line that he inherently doesn't need to elaborate on.
As you explore the house, furniture that was blocking your path earlier suddenly moves out of your way for you to explore more. And then, you find the ghost of a girl who rambles on about an everlasting dark dream. And then she asks where her mom, her dad, and her... Wait, Abra? Don't tell me. Is this the same girl? Yep. And when you run into the girl again, she'll talk about how she supposedly heard her father's voice, telling her to stay with him and forget about the Lunar Wing. Lunar Wing. You mean the thing that has to do with Cresselia? So you reach the final room and discover a Lunar Wing, only to have the ghost girl appear again, explaining to you that she was waiting on Marvelous Bridge to return the Lunar Wing to Cresselia. And then she vanishes. So, what exactly happened here? It's obvious the girl died before she returned the Lunar Wing to Cresselia, but how did she die? Well, while it hasn't been confirmed, it's assumed that Darkrai killed her with its power of inducing nightmares in people's sleep.
Darkrai killing a little girl? Not E for explicit enough. Needs more creepypastas and hyper-realistic blood.
Too hyper-realistic!
Platinum's Darkrai event did it better.
Stopping you right there. Ignoring that this is his list and it's his opinion in terms of what does and doesn't go on it, the Darkrai event you mentioned talks about the player character facing Darkrai and they don't die. Meanwhile, in this event, it talks about a little girl being forced into eternal nightmares. So, a case could be made as to why Chaoski put this event on his list over the Pokemon Platinum one. Also, opinions don't counter opinions.
The truth? Darkrai isn't actively malicious. What makes the whole Darkrai thing even worse is that it's implied through the "though you don't will it" quote after capturing or defeating Darkrai, that Darkrai doesn't even have full control over its power of sending people and Pokemon into eternal nightmares. You seem to imply that Darkrai is actively malicious in what occurred at the Strange House, when the member card Darkrai event in Platinum shows that Darkrai can't even control its own power.
How? What? All Chaos Key did was explain that Darkrai was putting the girl into eternal nightmares. He never said it was intentional or malicious. If he did, you don't demonstrate this well, and it really seems like you're reaching for things to complain about.
How is that not any worse than the Strange House event in Black 2 and White 2? Speaking of the Strange House in and of itself, the only reason I had so much to say in response here was because I've seen the member card Darkrai Platinum event for myself. The only reason I had much to say here at all was because I was comparing the Strange House event to something else. To tell the truth, I really don't have much to say solely about the Strange House event. I haven't played Black 2 and White 2 in a while, but seriously, I really don't remember much about my experiences checking out the Strange House when I played through Black 2 and White 2. When I don't even remember much of my own experiences going through that event, then it must not be all that creepy to me. Think about that for a bit.
Good thing it's not your list then.
Wait, hold it, I just had a fucking bruh moment.
It makes sense that it would be Darkrai, since the girl says, "Everlasting Dark Dream." And the voice that the girl thought was her father's could have actually been Darkrai trying to keep her away from the Lunar Wing, which is said to get rid of nightmares. This is easily one of the darkest and most disturbing moments in Pokemon I've seen so far.
Yet it's only number 4. GG on the wording there. G motherfucking G.
So one of the creepiest things in Pokemon is gonna be on a list of top 5 creepiest things in Pokemon? Say it ain't so!
It wouldn't be a dark and creepy Pokemon list without bringing up the Pokedex.
You know, that encyclopedia of Pokemon entries that many fans have reason to believe are written in-game by kids?
You could literally make a top 10 list from just disturbing Pokedex entries alone. But since Jay Witz already does this, I'm just gonna talk about the ones that creep me out the most.
Am I the only one who finds it kinda funny that he's using an obviously hacked Pokédex? I know in the long run it doesn't matter, but this feels out of laziness that could easily bleed over into the rest of the list since it only takes a few seconds to turn out the shiny code in the emulator of your choice. Or hell, just find a regular completed Pokédex.
And this matters why? What issues does this cause for his list? It's just a visual compliment to what he's saying. Zerarick, if you're gonna nitpick, at least make sure they actually affect the video.
Specifically, the Pokedex entries of the Chandelure line. Reading these entries really make me question why these games are rated E.
Because they are optional things that most people are at most going to glance over after they caught the mod. There's also this whole thing of them never happening on screen. Ever. Also, isn't this a cop-out since this is more than one for an entry?
Just because something's optional or a small part of the game doesn't make it any less explicit. Second of all, no, it's not a cop-out because they're all part of the same evolutionary line, which is what he's putting on his list.
Litmix's Pokedex entry states that it pretends to be a guide in the dark, when it's really just absorbing the life force of those that follow it to fuel the light on its head. Considering the Celestial Tower and the previously mentioned Strange House are full of Litwick and a bunch of trainers, yeah, I don't want to think about what could happen. Lampint appears right when someone dies and takes their spirit away. They even so much as hang around hospitals for patients to die.
At least they're waiting for the patients to die first instead of killing the patients themselves. I can think of other Pokédex entries where the mons in question are much more malicious than that. Frostlass, for example, freezes its victims and puts the resulting frozen statues on display. Dino eats anything that moves, and its fully evolved form of Hydreigon will attack, consume, or destroy anything and everything it comes across. You're saying that a mon that waits for its victims to die first is creepier than mons that actively pursue living victims?
Chaos Key's list seems to be more directed towards events that are creepy. It could be argued that the Pokemon you brought up are more brutal than creepy. Sure, these can sometimes overlap, but they're still two different things. And perhaps Chaos Key finds the thought of Pokemon taking souls to be worse than Pokemon brutally murdering people. His list, his onions.
Even with subjectivity being taken into account, the type of subjectivity seen in these kinds of lists should still have some sense of logic behind it.
Logic like your own subjective stance as to what's creepy.
Wait, hold it, I just had a fucking bruh moment.
Come on, man, don't tell me you're scared of a little light. Your username references Kingdom Hearts, for frick's sake.
Oh look, Kaski is such an egotist that he made his cameo follow his own bullshit ideology of the no swearing club.
In fact, to everyone watching, what's wrong with some of us not wanting to swear? Maybe we're just trying to show more decency than the average person. Maybe we're just trying to set a good example for the youngins. And besides, it's like what Stuttering Craig said in that one top 10. You don't need to cuss to get your point across.
How childish. Even Josh let Alex swear in their co-op instead of forcing him to oblige his ideology.
Okay, And this video is on Chaos Key's channel, and if he doesn't want swearing, that's his choice. For you to talk down to him and call him egotistical for a different opinion on swearing is really childish. This goes back to TP's disclaimer about harsh criticism. Zerarick does this often. He gets so worked up and aggressive over the smallest nitpicks that it comes off as mean, if anything. Look, harsh criticism is still criticism, but how you present it is still important. If you're gonna be aggressive and play up this jackass persona, you need to remember a few things. 1. Don't overplay issues. Makes you come off as more spiteful, if anything. 2. Make sure the aggression is actually warranted. If you lose your shit over every tiny nitpick, you look like you more so want to tear the person down than actually help. And 3. Don't overdo it. It gets to a point where it becomes cringy, stale, and overdone.
Then there's Chandelure. Its white Pokedex entry says that being consumed in its flame burns up the spirit, leaving the body of that person behind. So let me get this straight, Dexter.
Don't you just love when someone talking about the games references something that's only a thing in the anime?
Didn't you guys earlier say that he should put non-canonical creepypastas on the list? So something non-canon is fine, but canon in the anime isn't? Also, he says at the beginning that it's anything in the Pokemon series qualifies for his list, and that includes anime. First, y'all get onto him for not adding something that would break his criteria. Now y'all get onto him for adding something that follows it. Bruh moment indeed.
You're telling me these living, floating light fixtures leave behind dead corpses?
I don't see any mention of Chandelure actively pursuing and killing victims in any of its Pokédex entries, except for maybe its Dex entry in black, but that's debatable.
When did he say Chandelure actively pursues his victims? Gale, this is the second time I've caught you reaching to make a point. Fucking stop.
And it still doesn't change the fact that the Dino and Hydreigon entries are much more consistent in their claims of how malicious they are.
Doesn't make him any more creepy.
And when these spirits get burned up by its flame, they lose their way and wander the world. Forever. Yeah, suddenly I don't want this Pokemon on my team anymore.
So you're dissuaded from using a Pokemon because of a Pokedex entry, something that not only never happens in-game, but if it were to happen, is easily preventable. Do you by any chance sleep with bubble wrap on?
It's a joke, you fucking cunts!
But if you ask what really creeps me out in this area, it's this.
Ah! Oh wait, sorry, jumped the gun.
This just goes back to what I said about Lavender Town's music. The only reason it sounds so unsettling is because it's in 8-bit. What would have been nice is if you played the version from Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver to see if it still sounds as creepy. In fact, allow me to play that right now. Nowhere near as unsettling if you ask me. Really, I think it just sounds weird.
This doesn't change that the original sounded creepy to Chaos Key. Your onion doesn't debunk his onion. Cease.
If we're gonna bring up scurry music, then why not make reference to Giratina's boss music?
Or the Distortion World theme, let's not forget that one.
What about New Moon Island's theme?
Ooh.
Because his point isn't scurry music is scurry. It's the creepy aspect of hearing random sounds on a radio.
But to keep the show free and to keep the show. Are you fucking serious?
So what could possibly be number 1? While the previous entry made me feel uneasy, at least you can change the radio signal to something else. Whereas number 1, it has to be seen in its entirety if you find it. And it's something that legitimately creeped me out when I saw it.
Prefacing this by mentioning how you can at least change the radio station so you cannot listen to the unknown thing. Keep that in mind because that you can avoid it factor will bite him in the ass after he shows this next one.
Spoilers. No, it doesn't.
What the fuck just happened?
Oh, nice job killing the mood. Again!
Hey look, you have your own sensor. So why couldn't your cameo swear again?
I was just exploring the city, seeing what I could find in every corner and building, only to stumble upon this random building and enter the elevator to reach the next floor.
You see, this goes higher than the unknown radio broadcast because you have to experience the scene in its entirety should you find it. My issue is, if part of why it's higher is because you have to see the whole thing, why isn't Lavender Town higher? You have to come across it, climb the Pokemon Tower, and defeat the deceased Marowak in order to obtain the Pokeflute, which is essential to continue with the game. Say what you want about it not being extremely dark or creepy in comparison, but Lavender Town's the only mandatory thing on the list. You never have to traverse through the Strange House, never have to reach Chandeler's Pokédex entry, never have to visit the ruins of Alph, and you never have to use an elevator in a hotel in Lumio's city. I'm just saying, if experiencing the whole kid and caboodle is one of your judging criteria, Lavender Town should be higher, if not number 1.
Or perhaps Lavender Town isn't as creepy to him as this is? Maybe the overall creepiness combined with the fact it forces you to sit through it is why this is higher? TP doesn't address this hypothetical. Way to take the least charitable interpretation, you fucking pickle slut.
And then this happens. The music stops, I can't seem to move, and then this hex girl creeps the freak out of nowhere and says, "No, you are not the one." Yeah, quick question. Who even is this hex girl? And what is she even doing here? Actually, why is she even here?
Can you say sequel hook?
There's a hex girl in Hotel Rich, whatever you call it.
Dear God, these videos just give me so many pedantic word nerd moments. Is Rishi's name that fucking hard to pronounce? Like, seriously, what the fuck?
And before anyone screams nitpick, let me put it like this. His lack of being unable to pronounce this word can be argued as a lack of research on his part, which can bleed over into his arguments for the placement of the entries.
Wait, hold it, I just had a fucking bruh moment.
Can. If you want to criticize what can happen, you're essentially just making up problems with the video at this point. I can say, oh, your lack of credits to the artist of the artwork you used can show laziness in the rest of your video, but in order for that to be an actual valid complaint, I need to demonstrate that this is an actual issue. Zerarick is essentially saying, maybe there's an issue, but just trust me on this.
What really creeps me out about this is the hex girl's model isn't even animating. Combine that with the fact that the music stops and your character doesn't move, it gives the impression the game is glitched. And we all know how creepy glitches can be.
Yeah, but the problem here is that glitches are unintentional.
It gives the impression the game is glitched. It gives the impression. I don't know what else to say here. This event came the heck out of nowhere, and it is by far the most disturbing and downright creepiest thing I have seen in Pokemon.
That reminds me, how's this moment even dark? Because nothing about this moment was explained, it doesn't come off as tragic or pessimistic, just creepy. Unless you're referring to dark as mysterious, but several comments you made throughout the video imply a different meaning.
There's some weird, dark, and creepy stuff in this series that makes me question just how kid-friendly it really is. This is easily one of the darkest and most disturbing moments in Pokemon I've seen so far. Reading these entries really make me question why these games are rated E.
You know how this issue would have been better handled? Either just calling this creepy things in Pokemon, or better defining dark.
Perhaps the possibility of the elevator girl being more open-ended is what made it more creepy in Chaos Key's eyes. For all we know, this girl could have been murdered, a lost soul, a ghost, or worse, a furry. In all seriousness, yeah, you can get onto Chaos Key for lack of elaboration, but you don't. You just say it's not scary and leave it there without addressing any possibility.
And the funniest thing about this entire situation is that Douglas is a former Megadupe fan.
Okay, wow. Not even 2 minutes in and we already have baseless assumptions. Megadupe, you don't even provide any evidence that Douglas was a former fan. And I, in fact, do have evidence that he was never a fan of yours. And it really seems as though you're trying to poison the well with this, considering your title and what you said about former fans in the section that I skipped.
However, the main reason why I want to go after this video is because this is a video that has many points and statements that a lot of former fans of mine use. It has nostalgia of my previous autism, good old-fashioned moral fagging, calling me a wannabe of Clay Claymore, and hypocrisy.
All of that mixed together really seems that you're trying to paint Douglas in a bad light before we even begin. Nice going.
Oh, I'm home alone. Let's start masturbating. Back in 2016, I was feeling the brunt of the backlash for an infamously terrible video I did on the mysterious Mr. Enter. I know this because my friend Morgan told me to check out this guy called Megadupe TV, who made a commentary on my video, and to be honest, I was impressed. He wasn't the best commentator out there, but I saw talent, and more importantly, I saw a ton of potential. That was 2 years ago. It is with a heavy heart that I report that all of that talent and potential has completely evaporated.
This is one thing that I notice many detractors of mine say. They don't like how I changed and evolved from my commentary community days, so they start whining about how Megadupe used to be cool. Nostalgia of my autism, in a nutshell.
Okay, we got quite a bit to unpack here. First, you claim that Douglas doesn't like how you evolved. Well, here's the thing. Douglas states in his video that he doesn't like how you lost your potential. You just saying, "Ow, my former fans don't like that I changed," is just a blatant straw man. Also, you're ignoring his actual point as to why he thinks you went downhill, which he hasn't elaborated on yet. This is just his opening statement. You should have waited until later on in the video when he actually expands on his points.
These guys don't seem to realize that they shouldn't be viewing nostalgia with rose-colored glasses, because if you have an actual brain, then you would see that my older videos were absolute trash. They were videos when I was a commentary community fag, for fuck's sake.
So wait, that's why they're bad? Seriously, from how you structured the sentence, it seems like you're saying that your old content is bad cause you were in the CC. Now, I'm not saying that you have to like your old content. Hell, I have some old videos that I really despise. But to say that you're bad cause you were in the CC is, well, to put it in your language, autistic. Because the community you're in shouldn't dictate the quality of your content.
And the fact that these guys look at videos like this and miss these types of videos show the type of taste these morons have. Taste that shouldn't be taken seriously whatsoever.
Wait, what's so bad with liking those videos? Megadupe, you gonna explain there, buddy? Cause all you've given us so far is, cause I was in the CC, they were bad. And I've already stated why that's not a valid point. Look, I'm not saying you gotta write an entire essay. This is just the start of the video after all. But at least some explanation would be nice. Otherwise, you look like a lazy, crack-smoking, drug-selling, pants-sagging, knife salesman. Post-point, cause I'm a frickin' moron. So, basically what I found out during editing is that Megadupe's last statement, you know, where he says this,
taste that shouldn't be taken seriously whatsoever,
is kinda implying that he won't take you seriously if you disagree with him. It's kinda fucking stupid, isn't it, Megadupe?
Oh, I'm home alone. Let's start masturbating.
In April 2017, Megadupe made a video criticizing the current state of the commentary community, more specifically the drama between the Neo-CC and the Alt-CC. While I initially liked the video because I felt it was cathartic for somebody to point out how pointless the drama was, when you actually look at it in an objective manner, it's more shallow than a puddle of water. The video basically consists of yelling at the clouds about everyone involved in the Neo-Alt drama, as well as all of the problems with the current incarnation of the CC.
Which is another reason why I legitimately don't understand why you spurgs miss the old Megadupe so much.
Because one video can represent a whole channel, right? Because there's no way this could have been just one fuck-up, right? And it's not like Douglas explains what he liked about your old content right after this interjection, right? Ah, God, 5 minutes in and I already want to pay Kurt Cobain a visit.
In his older videos, he was brash and abrasive, but he was also logical and level-headed. That went completely out the window with this video. It becomes incredibly obvious that the video was made out of anger, and when you make videos out of anger, you're not thinking straight, which causes you to say some really regrettable shit.
Hold on to this point, people, because this will come back to bite him in the ass in the form of this video.
Spoilers, it doesn't bite him in the ass at all, and Megadupe is just being a moronic spurg here.
Oh, I'm home alone. Let's start masturbating.
Since Megadupe returned to YouTube over a year ago, his channel has gone through a major shift in direction. He started to commentate on more popular YouTubers like Game Theory, for instance. I'm not beating around the bush when I say his commentary on Game Theory was one of the most pointless videos I've ever seen in my life. But why is it pointless? The video in question, which was about the true identity of Mega Man's Dr. Wily, was uploaded at the tail end of 2013, more specifically December 7th, which meant that the video was over 4 years old at that point, making it incredibly outdated, which in turn made the commentary completely and utterly pointless.
Hey, remember that video you did not too long ago on Big Al 2K6?
A, this adds nothing, debunks nothing, and does nothing to Douglas's point. Just because he did the same thing doesn't negate his criticism. B, his video was clearly a look back at popular YouTubers in the past, while your video was just a commentary, and Douglas was most likely critiquing how you were treating an old video as though it's still relevant. You seem like you just tried to discredit him rather than go after his points. And hell, you could have made a point here. Let me argue Douglas real quick. Douglas, how old a video is doesn't really matter. As long as A, Megadupe's points were valid, and B, he didn't regurgitate the same shit that was repeated 20 trillion times. You see, Megadupe? That's how you do it. Take that, you anti-CC spurg.
Oh, I'm home alone. Let's start masturbating.
While his critiques of Mr. Enter's fanbase were valid, they were not new. The cancerous nature of Mr. Enter's fanbase has never been a secret. It's been known since at least 2016. Hell, even earlier than that, so what is the point of all this?
Douglas, it doesn't fucking matter if everybody knows that Mr. Enter's fanbase is terrible. Has there been anybody who made a video on his fan base before I did? No? Then who fucking cares?
Hey, that's actually not a bad point, Megadupe. I gotta give you props.
And I find that funny, how you're going to say shit like this when you recently made a video on Speechy, of all people. One of the biggest fucking rant/commentary bandwagons I have seen, in a long-ass time. That's fucking hilarious to me.
Megadupe, you're a failed abortion. This is a running trend throughout the video. Megadupe will often try to discredit Douglas by calling out hypocrisy. I won't keep playing those parts because I'd just be repeating myself, but Megadupe, you shouldn't do that for future videos. It makes you look lazy and like you can't argue his points.
If you're thinking it's yet another excuse to shit on Mr. Enter, then you would be right. I honestly can't see any other reason for this video existing than that.
I love it when retards lie to try to make me look bad. Douglas, in that video, I wasn't critiquing Mr. Enter. For fuck's sake, I even say this in that video.
Now, don't get me wrong. Enter is a terrible channel. But, do you know what makes this channel even fucking worse? It's his moronic fans.
Douglas, you legit cannot be this fucking retarded.
I could say the exact same thing to you. Douglas says, this video was just an excuse to shit on Enter. You say, no it wasn't, you liar. Then show a clip of you shitting on Enter. Nice work there. Granted, this doesn't represent your entire video, but this is your evidence for how Douglas is a liar, and it proves him right.
This is the same person who made a commentary titled The Enter Hate Bandwagon, lambasting myself and others for hating on Enter just for the sake of it. So to say I was shocked that he fell into the exact same trap and completely went against those principles would be an understatement.
Although Enter is a really shitty YouTuber, unlike someone like VeilIskabum94, I can at least understand why someone would be a fan of Enter. Veil's content is the type of content to where, if you like it, then I have to assume that you are either a retard or a young kid, because his content is so lazily put together that only an autistic ape would find it even remotely entertaining.
I thought this was supposed to be about Mr. Enter's fanbase. What the hell does Veil have to do with this? I know this is coming across as nitpicking, but this little tirade has no place in this video, and the dismissive comments don't help either, which, by the way, is not at all condescending towards people that have different tastes, because as we all know, if somebody likes something you don't like, they're either retarded or a kid.
Yep, if somebody enjoys Veil's content, then I think they're retarded. Moral fagging isn't gonna change the simple fact, Douglas.
What? Where was Douglas moral fagging? He was just saying how you were being condescending to people who have a different opinion than you, which isn't moral fagging. It's calling you out for crying into your fucking Cheerios when people disagree with you. Now sure, I can kinda see how you misinterpreted that due to Douglas's wording, but the point is that you still missed Douglas's point.
Then there's his video on Logan Paul, which given the theme of this segment is pointless. Basically, this can be summed up in 30 seconds or less. Logan Paul goes to a suicide forest in Japan and films a dead body. He's a degenerate piece of shit for doing it. This is pandering 101.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that, actually. That Logan Paul video was pretty shit.
Then why didn't you just fucking skip it? You show that you're willing to do so, and if you add nothing to the video like you did here, then just fucking skip it.
Appealing to emotion and telling people exactly what they want to hear because it's the popular opinion. Let's be honest here, the only reason these trending topic videos exist is because they get views. And when you look at the downwards trajectory of his channel, it seems like views are the only thing he cares about these days. Some people in the comment section of my last video on Megadupe referred to him as Clay Claymore 2.0. This is a sentiment I personally don't agree with for 3 reasons.
Back the fuck up. Did Douglas just say he doesn't think Megadupe is like Clay Claymore? Well fuck, then that debunks this part here.
However, the main reason why I want to go after this video is because this is a video that has many points and statements that a lot of former fans of mine use. It has nostalgia of my previous autism, good old-fashioned moral fagging, calling me a wannabe of Clay Claymore.
Fuck Megadupe, who checked your script? Daredevil? Cause only a blind man would let this contradiction slip by.
Also, me using the word spurg is not this Clay Claymore exclusive thing, moron. Spurg is a very common word on the internet that a lot of people use to make fun of somebody. It's like saying that I'm a ripoff of another YouTuber because they use the word retarded.
He said you were overusing the word like Clay Claymore.
This argument can't be dismissed outright because I understand why people think he's the next Clay Claymore. He has a weird obsession with animation reviewers and cringy autistic spurts, and he also has an annoying habit to overuse the word SPUR!
Stop misconstruing his arguments.
And while those are annoying too, the one Clay Claymore characteristic that he exhibits that I want to talk about is criticism. Megadupe is a mixed bag when it comes to criticism. Sometimes he handles it well, and other times he handles it poorly.
Douglas, you either can take criticism or you can't take criticism. There is no in between.
Yes, there is. Like Douglas said, there are times where you can take criticism, and times where you can't. He does later try to bring up examples, and those examples are flawed, like you pointed out. But my point is, you're acting like his point isn't even there when, yeah, it is.
And I know why you are saying this, by the way. You are saying this because when I, respond, bringing up examples of me liking videos that have criticized me, you will reply with, I did say you were a mixed bag. So you can't be mad, bro. But I am not dumb like you, Douglas. I can easily see through your transparent shit, so don't try to pull that shit with me, alright?
Way to make baseless assumptions. If you actually decided to hear him out, he tries to provide examples as to when you could and couldn't take criticism. Go after those, rather than make assumptions that make you look like a fucking petty child.
And makes it practically impossible to take you seriously when you call out others for doing the same thing. I've seen people that can handle criticism well, and others that don't, but I've never seen someone who's a mixed bag when it comes to criticism. I guess hell truly has frozen over.
Because that's not a thing. Again, you either can or can't take criticism. You are only saying this so I wouldn't be able to bring up times where I have liked criticism towards me.
Why do you do this, Megadupe? Legit, you just repeated a point you made not that long ago, and had almost the exact same wording too. Come on, man. Fuck it, I'm calling the cops for mass murder of brain cells. Don't worry, the SJWs will call it racist and you'll be out of jail fast.